Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you're having a good time today at the agency. I'm going to give you a presentation about periodic safety update reports and the concept of the benefit-risk evaluation. We need to understand first, and I apologize if you already know it, but we need to understand first what is the benefit-risk balance of a medicinal product. So if we think about during the time of the marketing authorization process, the companies need to establish and demonstrate the benefits and the risks of the medicinal products. So on the other hand, the regulators need to assess those benefits and those risks so that when the product is authorized for marketing, the decision is going to be based on a benefit-risk balance. That means that with the information available on that specific moment, the products are going to be authorized if it is considered that the benefits are greater than the risks, so the benefits outweigh the risks. And this is what we call a positive benefit-risk balance. I have put here a very simple picture about what can be considered a positive benefit-risk balance. For example, for a medicinal product authorized for smoking cessation, if we put all the benefits together in one part of the scale, we'll find prevention of cancer, prevention of cardiovascular disease, prevention of respiratory disease, and increase of life expectancy. And on the other hand, we have some of the risks, which would be insomnia, headaches, and nausea. So we perfectly can see how the balance is going to be very positive. Of course, in real life, it's not as simple as that. It's a bit more complicated. We need to see the clinical picture of the benefits, the clinical relevance, if there are alternative treatments or not. And also with the risk, we need to see, and we hear from risk management this morning, if the risks are manageable or not. But this is just for us to understand what is a positive benefit-risk balance. The problem is that the benefit risk is valid, as I said, at a given point in time, so may change later on. And this is because new information on benefits and risk may emerge when the drug is on the market and is used in clinical practice. This is because greater number of patients are going to be using the drug compared to the patients that use the drug during the clinical trials phase. Rare events, reactions may not have discovered during the clinical trials period. Also, we're going to have in the post-marketing experience the use of the medication in real world, so patients with other coexisting diseases and taking other medications. So from there, we're going to have more information. And we may have also post-marketing studies, clinical trials, or post-authorization safety studies that may be ongoing to demonstrate benefits in other indications or to measure risks. So from here, we're going to have new information from the initial marketing authorization. What we have to do with that new information in order to enhance patient safety and to protect public health? Well, this new information should be assessed promptly, for example, during signal detection activities, but also a periodic re-examination of the benefit-risk balance is needed to ensure that the balance remains positive during the whole cycle of the medicinal product. So the periodic re-examination is currently performed in a document called Periodic Safety Update Report, or PSUR. So if we look for a simple definition of PSURs, are pharmacovigilance documents intended to provide an evaluation of the benefit-risk balance of a medicinal product for submission by the pharmaceutical companies to the regulators at defined time points during the post-authorization phase. And these defined time points, so the frequency for the submission of PSURs, is going to depend on the risk and may change with the time and with the knowledge of the product. I'm just going to put the whole cycle of the PSURs here for us to see the whole picture together. If we start with the pre-marketing phase and with a certain point on time, the initial marketing authorization, on that moment, I'll have a benefit-risk balance. From there, I'm going to start receiving information, for example, from healthcare professionals in adverse reactions reports directly from patients, information from new clinical trials, so post-authorization studies, information reported also in the literature upon further research. And these are only examples of sources of information because we can have information from many other sources. So for example, with a frequency of 6 months, the company are going to collate all of this and create a PSUR. It should be PSUR number 1 with a benefit risk assessment in there. if it remains positive in the next 6 months, will have the second PSUR with another benefit-risk balance. So this is more or less the way it works. It is very important to remember that in the last PSUR, the companies need to put all the available and cumulative information, all the information they know for the product, even from the pre-marketing phase, together with all the information they've been receiving during the post-marketing or after the drug has been introduced on the market. PSURs and this new legislation, well, these documents are not new documents introduced with the new legislation, but the content, the scope, and the outcome have changed, I would say even dramatically, with this new legislation. Because the new format of the PSURs now should include information about benefits and not only about risks like before. They should integrate the new information in the context of what is already known about the medicinal product, so contains cumulative information. It should incorporate, as I said, a critical analysis of the benefit-risk balance. And very important, the outcome of the PSUR assessment now is going to be legally binding, and we'll understand that in a minute. The PSURs are very long documents, contain now 20 different sections, so I'm not going to bother you with the whole table of contents of the PSURs, but I try to put here the main content of the reports. So we'll find actions taken for safety reasons, so for example, suspensions of clinical trials or communication to healthcare professionals for safety reasons. We'll have a section about patient exposure, with the number of the patients exposed. It would be sometimes an estimation, but trying to incorporate new things like the volume of prescriptions. And also important, the exposure in the actual use of the medicinal product, even the off-label use, so the use outside the authorized conditions. We'll find also all the significant findings from the different sources I mentioned before, clinical trials, spontaneous adverse reactions reports, patient support programs, or even from the literature. The marketing authorization holders also need to address all the signals that they have been identified during the period of the report. Even if they close the signals because they didn't find that they were a new risk, they need to establish the different signals in the PSUR. Information about the new risks and the new information about risk that we already know. The same for the benefits, the new benefits identified, and the new information about already known benefits, in order to finish with a benefit risk assessment. And finally, the conclusions and the actions after the assessment. That could be, for example, an update of the product information with the new identified risk or risk communication as appropriate. The PSURs, once they have been submitted by the companies, are going to be assessed by the regulators, and this assessment will result in a legally binding outcome. As I said, it could be a maintenance of the marketing authorization if the benefit-risk balance is exactly the same and there are no new risks. We may have a variation of the marketing authorization directly from the PSUR, for example, an update of the package leaflet of the product information, but we could have potentially a withdrawal of the product from the market with a suspension of the marketing authorization. This could be one of the outcomes of the PSUR. In the context of the European Union, the PSURs are going to be assessed by the EMA Scientific Committee, so they're going to go to the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, and in the cases of variations or suspensions of the marketing authorizations, they will go to the CMDH or the CHMP, depending on the product. And for those, again, with variations or suspensions, there will be a European Commission decision. In the context of the transparency, in line with all the procedures for this new pharmacovigilance legislation, we will publish some documents related to the PSURs. We'll publish the conclusions, the recommendations by the PRAC, the opinions by the CHMP, and of course the Commission decisions. You may have seen already the EMA has published a list of substances indicating the frequency of the PSUR submission. This list has been created by EMA in collaboration with the national competent authorities. It was a lot of work. It's a legally binding list because it is a mandate from the legislation. It is called the European Union Reference Date List, and this is the way we can control the submissions of PSURs. I'm going to show you a screenshot of the list. This is the current publication. I wouldn't try to understand all the figures and all the dates in there because it's very complicated, but basically it is a list of substances with the data log points and with the frequency for submissions of PSURs. It's legally binding, so the pharmaceutical companies need to check this list and report PSURs or submit PSURs according to this. And just want to finish with a few take-home messages. The benefit-risk balance can change, and there is a need for a reassessment during the life cycle of the product. The PSURs are going to permit the periodic reassessment of this benefit-risk balance. There can be legal actions taken from the PSUR assessment, and the main objective of why we do this is because the general idea, and I suppose we all repeating the same concept today, because minimizing the risks and optimizing the benefits through the life cycle of the medicinal product will promote and protect public health and enhance patient safety by avoiding unnecessary risks to the patients. So this is what I wanted to say. I hope it was helpful, and I'll be happy to take any question, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodrigo, for being quite clear. So, Rob, we have an immediate reaction.
Yeah, no, this, like everything I think we've talked about today, obviously has cost implications for EMA. I don't need to know how much money this is costing, but in terms of personnel or more work, what does this mean for EMA? Maybe percentage-wise or something? I mean, because it seems like a lot of work.
Yes, it is. I'm unable to give you any figure, honestly, because I don't know. But it's true that because PSURs are going to embrace centrally authorized products and non-centrally authorized products, because as you have seen, PSURs are going to be done by substance. So the assessor will have to assess different PSURs for the same substance are going to be submitted in different documents because they're going to be maybe manufactured by different marketing authorization holders. So there are implications for the EMA that I don't know to what extent those implications are going to be yet, because we have just started, but there are going to be also implications for the national competent authorities, because they need to have available assessors to assess those PSURs. And it is in the legislation that if a PSUR is submitted, it is a legal cycle now, so they need to assess those PSURs, which is very, very good for patient health protection, but definitely it will have an impact on fees. And I think the fee regulation also is going to maybe help us with that. But from that, I'm unable to give you any figure because I don't really know it.
We have Gritzi first, Hildrun and François.
Those PSURs, I suppose in the beginning that they are more frequent than further in the life cycle of the product, can eventually be decided that it is not necessary anymore to submit those PSURs, or can, for instance, when new safety information shows up, the frequency be again can it be more frequent again?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Everything you said is perfect, because the frequency of the PSURs is on a risk-based approach. So at the beginning, because when a drug is just launched in the market, it would be obvious, it would be more frequency. When the safety profile is more or less established, then it can go to 3 years, 5 years. So, but with the list, it's very, very good because we can change the cycle completely. So, but it's absolutely correct what you said. Well, for example, for generics medicinal products, they are exempted from PSUR. So this is one of the things. So well-established use, some homeopathics. So yeah, if it is considered that there's no risk, I mean, there's no risk. I don't know if you can ever consider that, but.
François and then Albert. Okay, so we can move to Albert.
Yes, not only EMA, but also, for instance, the FDA and Japan, etc., are demanding PSURs. How far are those processes harmonized, and for instance, I heard that there should be one clock start in the future. Is that already so? Because I'm from an international organization, and it should be very easy. If I've read or seen the PSUR here of EMA, that I've also seen the PSUR of the FDA.
Yes, well, PSURs are global documents, and the content of the PSUR has been driven by the International Conference of Harmonization, E2C. And we have good news because the E2C finalized the final guidance, which is a step 4, a couple of weeks ago. So we have the final guidance, which will be incorporated in our GVP Module 7 for PSURs, although we've been working together with the E2C in order to align everything. But now with the E2C finalized, it will be harmonized. So it's the same document can be submitted to the FDA, to Japan, to different countries. So we've done a huge exercise of harmonization with PSURs thanks to the ICH.
Can I just say, it's a practical question, but one of the principles which I introduced is that PSURs will come to a recommendation to change already, for example, product information. For me, it was not fully clear in the presentation. Does it mean that it immediately can be implemented, or you need a variation to make this change?
If it's a centrally authorized product, immediately, without a subsequent variation, it's going to go for commission decision, and the companies don't need to submit a variation. If it is for nationally authorized products, could be a little bit different depending on the national legislation. We aim for an implementing variation, and that's it. So for CAPs, for centrally authorized products, directly without variation, but for nationally authorized products, still they need to submit a variation. The type of variation, I think, is still under discussion, but that's the scenario.
So then it means that there will be no more type 2 variations for safety for central authorized medicines.
If the change is from the PSUR, what we mention as well, they don't need to wait. If they discover during any period there is a safety issue or a new signal, they don't need to wait for the PSUR to address that safety issue. They need to submit a variation as soon as they know, right? So PSURs are not a tool for signal detection or a tool to improve. I mean, they can use it to improve the product information if they discover something during the assessment of the PSURs, but it's very important that they don't wait for that. So still we'll have variation outside the PSURs. But the good thing, at least for centrally authorized products, is quicker after the PSUR. They don't have to submit a variation, then assessment of the variation, then so it's quicker the update of the product information, at least for the centrally authorized products. And for the non-centrally authorized products, I think will be quicker, again, depending on the type of variation they use to update the product information.